Tonight on Life on the Rock, we have Thomas Wurtz from Varsity Catholic. We'll see a faith playbook and much more. Welcome to Life on the Rock. Tonight our guest is Thomas Wurtz. He is the founder of Varsity Catholic. It's a branch of Focus that specializes in reaching out to college athletes. You know, they can be a tough group in one sense. They're in their sports world and they want to break in there and share the message of Jesus. He's going to talk about his own personal story and how they do that.
Yeah, sports at the college level, that can be kind of a controlled environment. So sometimes there's not actually that much freedom with just the athletes just kind of do whatever they want. But there's a lot of distractions that also come with playing sports. But Thomas, he's going to talk to us a little bit about that. So we're now going to a faith playbook on faith.
Teammates have to be faithful to one another. Players have to prove themselves to be reliable by showing up to practice, working out with the team, and making an effort to better themselves. Each player has to discipline himself and bring himself into unity with the team so that the team can count on him. This helps us understand our relationship with God and the church. Christ showed us that when we bring ourselves into unity with the church, his mystical body, we are conforming ourselves to him. Christ didn't institute the church to be an obstacle to our salvation, just as a football team isn't an obstacle to winning a game. We have a personal relationship with Christ when we have a personal relationship with his church, which brings us back to Christ in the Eucharist. As Christ said, "He who hears you hears me, and he who rejects you rejects me." Unity and fidelity go hand in hand. A player has to make an effort to learn the good that needs to be done and avoid what can affect his ability to perform. If we're not willing to make these sacrifices, then we weaken this relationship. In our faith, we have to avoid sin and learn to do the good that Christ asks of us. We cannot have the attitude of believing in doing whatever and expect to play well. It doesn't work that way. We have to make sacrifices, and to do that, we have to have some discipline. It's when we commit ourselves that we become faithful to our duties and grow in confidence and love towards God. In football, skipping practice or goofing off in the weight room shows a lack of fidelity. This is a sign that somebody doesn't want to be there. They are considered football sins because it is going to cost a team a game. These players lack uniformity. They cheat themselves but also the team because the team is counting on them to be ready and step it up when needed. We need to be faithful and place the team before ourselves. We place Christ first in our lives when the teachings of the faith become our first priority. Until next time, keep the faith and fight the good fight.
Well, welcome Thomas Wurtz to Life on the Rock.
Thanks, Father.
And you're heading up Varsity, is it called Varsity Catholic?
Varsity Catholic.
On Focus. What is that about? It's a branch of Focus?
Yes. So we realized soon into my time in Focus as a missionary that there was a certain subculture on the campus, the athletes, that were usually isolated, kind of left out there doing their thing. And I wanted to help us be a lot more intentional going after those young men and women, because they often don't have the opportunity to come to the Newman Center, come to the campus ministry, because their life is full, their life is busy. And so it's just an opportunity to intentionally reach out to the student athletes to help be that bridge, to introduce them to Jesus Christ, introduce them to the Catholic Church, and draw them into the Catholic community.
Right. I remember at University of Louisiana Lafayette, Father Bryce Sibley down there. I remember talking to one of his guys. They had gotten to like a Greek, the president of a fraternity.
Yes.
And he actually, I think, wound up studying for the priesthood. But I love that idea, like he got hooked, converted, and then he went and talked to his own. And that's kind of the method, is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, athletes are some of the most impressive people on a college campus, in my opinion. And they have so much to give. The Lord has given them so much. And it's amazing to see them respond to the invitation to know Christ. And the family that is a team is a wonderful opportunity to then evangelize. You're on bus trips, you're staying in hotels, you're sweating, you're bleeding, you're just doing so much. You're throwing up with all these men or women that are on your team. So it really becomes kind of a familial type of an environment. And so it's really it's a hard place to evangelize. As you know, evangelizing family members can be very hard, but it's also a prime opportunity just to turn to the guy in the locker room next to you and to start talking to them. You know what I mean? Talking to them about something that matters besides what you did the night before. You know, just talk about what brings you joy, and in that to just start sharing Christ with the teammates and other athletes.
And it seemed like a big part of the Focus ministry is Bible studies. What would that look like with a sports guy?
It looks similar. I mean, a lot of the stuff we do, it's similar. It's just tweaked to fit within their life. So Bible studies might be on the road in the hotel. It might be on the bus. It might be a shorter Bible study. You might have to change what night you do it based off if they're in season or out of season. It might be a reflection after a practice one week because they're slammed because they're getting ready for the playoffs or whatever it is. So there's a little bit more flexibility, but that doesn't lessen the message, right? It's wonderful that you can, and I'm sure you know this, Father, you can do a lot in 5 minutes if you're intentional.
Right.
More than you can do in 25 minutes if you're not intentional with it.
Right.
And so it's bringing a high level of quality in a way that fits in the rhyme of a college athlete's life, if that makes sense.
And I would imagine you're a former athlete that you see that encounter in a student athlete, and then what they do with that. They take the ball and run, don't they?
The potential is high. If they get it, they usually get it. And grace builds on nature, and there's just a lot of the potential for growth in natural virtues, right? There's just the potential to grow in your resiliency, to grow in grit, to grow in humility, just all these opportunities to know what it means to sacrifice yourself, because literally you sacrifice your body on the playing field. And if you encounter Christ, then to be able to then allow God's grace to help you transition that into your walk with the Lord, it's a natural fit. Just the harmony there. I mean, St. Paul references athletics in the scriptures. It's just, the potential is amazing. And I our missionaries that were college athletes are amazing individuals, very impressive. And the Lord has given them so much, and when they respond to His grace, He just continues to do amazing things with them. So it's very fun, very exciting.
Yeah, and I grew up playing a lot of sports, and I still like to exercise and stuff. And I think one thing it helped me, like in the spiritual life too, was to have that kind of, you have a commitment to exercise. Well, I have a commitment to pray, and I don't feel like it sometimes or whatever, but I know this discipline's important. That must come easier to the athlete, doesn't it?
It should, if we help them translate, right? I mean, I think help make that connection. And yesterday someone made a point in front of some athletes that Mass isn't supposed to entertain us, right? It's not supposed to strike to the feelings necessarily, but we choose it, right? Just like working out at 6 a.m. usually doesn't feel good, right? Practices don't always feel good. The commitments in athletics don't always feel fun and exciting, but we choose them. So to your point, they know what it means to choose something, to will something. So if you help them come alive and encounter Christ, they know what it means to choose, and love is choice, right? And so again, the potential is profound because it's ingrained in their life. We just got to help them see Christ, encounter Him, and then start to choose Him, which of course God's grace moves them once they've encountered Him.
And maybe the faith and surrender part doesn't come as easy to them.
It doesn't, you're right. Because they're self-reliant in a lot of ways, because they work hard, they get better, right? And so that kind of develops as I do it. They recognize they're talented, and you got to help them understand that God gave them that talent. But there is a sense of I'm good at something that I work at, and it's not the same with our faith. You can't really work at your faith to a certain level. I mean, you try devotions, but it's God's grace that transforms you. And so helping them surrender to Him can sometimes be pretty hard.
There's that mystery of, and I've always struggled with, I mean, the church has wrestled with the cooperation of grace and free will. And you even see that at the Annunciation. When Mary makes that fiat, let it be done to me according to your word. She's just saying, Lord, I have faith, let this happen to me. You do this work. And yet at the same time, she takes off for her cousin Elizabeth across the hill country of Judah, which is like, 80, 90 miles, big change in elevation. So that's a big effort. So there's this combination I think we wrestle with. But how about your own story? You were evangelized by Focus.
I was.
Yeah.
So I grew up in the Southwest in Phoenix, was just good, good at athletics, good academically. Quarterback. Yeah,
high school?
all state in high school.
Okay.
Went to an all boys high school, it's great. Got recruited to play a lot of small schools, ended up at the University of San Diego. And beautiful campus in a beautiful city. And as soon as I got to college for fall camp for football, when you get to college, you realize that everyone is really good.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what level of college you play, everyone's really good. And I wasn't used to that, and I wasn't the best.
Yeah.
And so I just struggled through the season. The beach was really close, so I got really distracted. And the party scene and things started to consume me because I didn't know the Lord, right? And my identity was in athletics. I was always good at that, right? And people always say, you're really good. Here's an award.
Yeah.
And when I got to college, I wasn't getting that anymore.
Right.
And so it was easier for me to start just wondering, well, okay, who am I? What's going on? And so the party thing just sucked me in, and the beach sucked me in. After the season, I walked away from it. Joined a fraternity, party scene just consumed me even more. I lost my scholarship. And so I'm sitting there in the summer. I didn't have a house because we couldn't find a house on the beach, lost a lot of money. And my dad said, maybe you should go up to Benedictine College, where my brother had ended up transferring to. So I ended up Benedictine, play rugby, continue my wayward ways. And Focus had started as I got there. And my brother was one of the first involved in Focus. And so I was exposed to men that had joy, that loved the Lord, and I really hadn't been open and exposed to men like that before. And after a year and a half of just seeing that and hearing Curtis speak at some of the events that my brother would drag me to, it finally just realized that the party scene left me empty, dating girls, all that kind of stuff that the world tells you to run after, left me empty, frustrated. And I remember waking up in the middle of my junior year on a Saturday, had a bit of a headache because I was out the night before, and just thinking, this is enough, like this isn't making me happy. Started praying the rosary, because that's what I knew. I was raised Catholic, I knew how to pray the rosary, and joy started to come. And then I went to, my senior year, I went to the Focus Conference, which was in Lincoln, Nebraska at the time. I think there was 400 people, and went to confession, it's been a long time, and then sat in front of Christ in the Eucharist and started crying. And it was just there that the Lord was just like, I'm who you've been looking for. And so, I owe so much to my brother, his involvement with Focus, Curtis over the years. And so then finally I decided I want to be a missionary when I graduate. I want to help the guys that I was like, to help the guys that I hung out with. And it's been a blessing since.
Yeah. And did you start working for Focus then? You became a missionary and now you work for Focus.
I do. Yeah, so as soon as I graduated back in 2001, it's a long time ago. So I've been working with Focus since then. And we started Varsity Catholic in 2007. So.
And so that's like a special training for the missionary. What are some of the things you teach them in that special track?
Yeah, so most of the Varsity Catholic missionaries are former college athletes. So right away they have the experience to relate to, which is important. You know that. I mean, it's if you don't see someone for very long, and you have a small slither, that door slightly opens, anything you can do to stick your foot in, right? And that experiential connection is important to do that.
Yeah.
And then we just train them on really how to be intentional, where to go, some things on what to say, just to refine what they know inside, but to really refine that. And a lot of it is an accountability, right? Because it's hard reaching college athletes. Yeah. They're a tough breed. They're a fun breed, but they're tough.
They're tough because they're so busy, or
that's part of it. Yeah. They're busy at the big schools. You don't know where they are because it's maybe 800 athletes out of 30,000 students at the big state schools.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes they're isolated in their own facilities. And so if you don't really have access to those facilities, it's hard to find them. You know, and it's hard to athletes. The athlete culture is very utilitarian, right? If you're good, you play. If you're not, you don't play. So I use you to win games.
Yeah.
And so when someone's used, trust is hard to develop, right? So getting the time to be around them long enough to where you can build the trust to have that authentic friendship, to then help them introduce them to Christ, rather than being, hey, you're an athlete, I want you to come to this, right? Again, that just continues the cycle of use. And so trying to help them understand, I love you, I love you not because you're a football player at the University of Nebraska or wherever. I love you because you're you, and I just want to walk with you and introduce you to something that has brought me joy, and that's Christ. You know what I'm saying? So it's so a lot of it is just the intentionality and the accountability to that, to go out where they are, to not be afraid, as John Paul II always said. Don't sit in a room in the Newman Center and wait for people to come. That's just not effective. Go out and meet them.
And what about the broader culture? You know, America, we are obsessed with working out, and sometimes I like to exercise. Sometimes we could put that over the spiritual life sometimes. You know, it's hard to find that balance, you know.
We worship our body a little bit.
Cult of the body. What do you have to tell us about that?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think sports in general, I think, you know, our culture almost worships more in stadiums than they do in churches. And then you take that into then the personal, physical atmosphere, which is huge. It's blowing up all this personal fitness stuff, which is great. Our bodies are a temple of the Holy Spirit. But it can get to the point where vanity increases, and it does become kind of an idolization of our own body, which is problematic. I wish I worked out more, but there is an element of doing it in moderation, doing it for the right, to stay healthy. Because again, the Lord has blessed us with with bodies, which is just amazing. But when it becomes our focus, when it becomes something we become obsessed with, just like anything else, that's not good.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us. Keep up the great work.
Father, thank you.
You
too. Pleasure to be with you.
I love the energy of Thomas. You could kind of feel his intensity, maybe from his athletic background. But he was a big fish in high school. He gets to college, you know, he gets kind of lost, and a lot of other great athletes. But finds Jesus through that kind of bottoming out experience, goes to Benedictine College. Beautiful story. And I like some of the themes, you know, talking about breaking into that athletic world, you know, holding people accountable, the athletes accountable. And the thing that always strikes me, and we talked about this, is that I think there's a kind of a transition with the athlete that has a spiritual conversion, because he can take that discipline of daily workout, make it daily prayer as well. And that's helpful.
That's one of the things about sports in general, is that there's so many, I think, foundational principles laid out for the students. You know, you talk about leadership, you talk about roles of responsibility. A lot of times, you know, you have to study sports. You know, I know in football that was kind of a big aspect. So why not apply, you know, like studying the faith, you know, simple things like that. But I think too, there's so many virtues that are cultivated in sports, just natural virtues that you pick up on that, you know, we do apply to our lives outside of sports. And that was always kind of a constant theme growing up that they always taught us, you know, the principles you learn here in football, you know, apply them to whenever you become a father, a husband, a businessman, whatever. There's a lot of good aspects about sports. So.
Right. And also we spoke about the danger of the cult of the body. You know, there's a big, huge fitness, workout, health movement in our country today. And we can wind up putting more time into that than in our spiritual life, you know. And
there's always that imbalance that we got to wrestle with. And I think same too with working out. You know, you can overdo it or underdo it. You know? And so there's that balance of walking, you know, the fine line of, you know, keeping things in order. You know, I think both sports and religion teach that. So
he had some good one-liners. We worship more in stadiums than churches.
Yeah, that's surprising, right?
But the one I liked, and the end of the Vineyard Challenge we want to get, is he said that we just can't wait in the Newman Center. They had to have the mentality to go where the athletes are, where they hang out, to reach out to them, you know, to invite them to their Bible studies, to disciple them, and to bring them to the Newman Center. So that's our challenge for you. Don't wait in the Newman Center, meaning go out, kind of know your target, maybe know who you're good with working with, and try to bring them to Christ. So we'll send you in the vineyard with a blessing and God's grace. May our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week on Life on the Rock.
I was 18, pretty in pink and a prom queen. I didn't think I'd be sorry. say, telling no one, crying in pain. I was broken when they told me it was done. No words to say the way I feel. Mother and child never seen